You're listening to the Fictron Episode 6 bonus commentary. Going forward, these segments will be reserved for commentary that was not quite off topic enough to be a Fictan segment, but nonetheless had to be cut for time. So if you'd like to hear more of our 17776 discussion, then without further ado, let's get alternative.
Once upon a time our teacher said, "You'll never break the rules that we define. The times are changing now, let's look ahead. It's time for us to read between the lines."
I love the idea that, print tech, hasn't been innovated on in the last, 15,000 years, or however many. It's so... It's so charming, because also...
it's the same thing as, with the flying cars, the way that, people wanted that delay. They wanted the precious 3 minutes between asking a question and knowing the answer. It's I guess it would follow that for the same reason. They don't... they want the paper to get jammed, and they want it to, have shitty JPEG rasterization.
Yeah.
They might complain and secretly, think they don't want it, but they actually do.
Yeah.
I also like how the stupid pamphlet of the sinful man crossing the Jesus Christ bridge.
It's
the Holy
very
God.
realistic.
The
it
one
looks
that
like
Tim
it
Hansen
looks
said,
like
yes.
the it looks like the Saddam Hussein meme.
No.
only in geometry, but yeah, I see what you mean.
It kind of does though. Just you could totally edit Saddam Hussein underneath the cross at the bottom there.
Stop. Entrance hidden by redemption and salvation.
Oh yeah, here.
Oh my god. We should talk about the music is so good, it suits the story so well because it does have this smooth jazz elevator music kind of quality.
Yeah.
I would describe it as very much like elevator music, which I think is very well suited for a world with no more conflict.
Yeah, it's perpetually waiting, kind of.
Yeah.
But then at moments it has at times the music is very ominous, in these two scenes in particular. I think the music is really very well chosen for the scenes that it's used in.
Yeah, the music in No 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 is almost more it reminds me of the opening to Ghostbusters, before the actual music kicks in, and then if you had an AI continue that. It's very stressful. It's got sort of a chime in the background. It has this rising tension, even though very little is actually changing in the melody. And then, of course, what is it? Nancy catches the ball, right? Or who is it? Lucretia Evans.
Yes.
Yeah, so Lucretia Evans is at a Burger King and just talking to the person
and getting
there.
cash from the cash register.
Yeah, so because cash isn't important anymore, so they can literally just get cash from places are customers at. But so she's sort of famous for being the least lucky person to play the 500 game. So she hasn't caught one of these balls, which is statistically implausible for how many people are playing it and for how long the game has been going on for. It's extremely implausible for her to catch this ball. Right, and so she happens to be...
It's implausible that she's caught so few.
Right, exactly.
And famous for it. To the point where people rediscover her as a meme every few years, and then she
the way they do with Terrare.
Yeah, kind
and
of.
So of course, just her luck, it's finally she's actually nearby where the ball's gonna be dropped, and she's racing to get it, but then there's the abject horror, of course, of oh god, the Livermore light bulb has been destroyed.
I know,
and
she gets her victory, but at what cost? The unluckiest ball to catch. That she caught,
she had to offload her bad luck onto someone else.
But it is interesting to see this huge victory for someone, and somebody who you genuinely want to root for.
Yeah, and they
make
only
an
introduce
insane case for her.
And they only introduce her in that chapter, and you get to know her so well.
Exactly, they do such a wonderful job writing her specifically.
Yeah.
From the
Her
Burger King line. That it feels almost tragic to have this huge important victory for her be overshadowed or made tragic by this death that occurs because of it.
Yeah.
absolutely.
Well, no, I can think, anything nerdier just becomes a game instead of a sport. So you'd be talking about something like Warhammer 40k, which you play with a measuring tape. You actually have to have a measuring tape and a protractor in order to play 40k. So
I was so nerdy I didn't even know about it.
yeah, no, it's insane. It's a tabletop game with no board. Your pieces are just on the table, and you have to measure the shot distances in order to calculate how much damage your gun did to the alien.
God damn.
It's
Okay.
so awful. I looked up a video once. I once looked up a video. How do you play this? And I saw the guy has like a protractor and a ruler, and it's like, oh my god, this is the nerdiest thing. This is the final form.
You know,
But yeah, parkour and
saying,
speedrunning
though.
are up there.
to play there's things in RuneScape that to play really well and properly you need to like quickly like tap keys on your keyboard to switch tabs in like in-game windows. I had to do that last night. I was doing a quest that like is a recently released quest with like a boss that was, you know, doable but difficult for me, my skill level of like PVMing. But yeah, it was tough, and I had to like turn off my freaking function keys so that my F keys would work faster.
Bala, that reminds me of the idea of having to switch tabs rapidly to play. Reminds me of that what was it, the Pikachu meme you sent me, with the guy rapidly swapping between the tabs on his phone.
Yeah, wait. Can I show you this, Izzy? Do you want to see this?
Sure.
I love this.
I'll try and keep the thought alive. But
Yeah.
I'm just imagining a RuneScape quest that works like that. It's definitely the case. Yeah, I think you're right, Izzy. None of us are particularly sports-minded, but it does open a greater window of insight into what it is like for sports fans. Generally, I feel like if a lot of people are doing something, then dismissing it out of hand is just anthropologically illiterate. There must be a reason behind it, you know?
yeah,
Absolutely.
And I like
it's the same with it was the same like when we talked about the Go Animate videos, where it's like you can't just write off something that's this big a phenomenon.
Exactly.
I don't think anybody's writing off sports. Maybe
Oh,
There are the occasional
much,
people
yeah.
who are like, sports ball, the number go up, you know, and they
Yeah,
they,
sure.
they
You know,
describe
I will-
it in the reductionist materialist terms,
I will-
like,
you know, I'll do that,
sweaty
like-
men in tights, but it's like, there is actually something concrete to it, something spiritual to it.
and it's nice to like hear it like as Bayla said, it's really wonderful to hear it from a perspective that like is so alien to me, because
Yeah.
like as somebody who like was not at all like, especially as a kid, not sports inclined in the slightest, like they would put me in, my parents tried to put me in every single sports possible, and I would do the worst shit. I would be like literally in outfield in like t-ball, just like picking daisies, or like just like create like making like dirt castles, and they're like, oh,
On my
I guess
second
this
grade,
isn't gonna work.
on my second grade soccer team, my position was commentator.
Oh, I love that for
Fitting.
you.
Yes,
That makes so much sense.
I had a little tape recorder on a necklet, on a lanyard, and everything.
Aw. I love that.
I'll do I will like ironically do like the sport ball jokes, like particularly like quoting Sweet Bro and Helic.
Yeah, of course. You gotta.
Big man has the rock.
But it's wonderful to like, you see somebody write about it with like such passion that isn't just robotic sports statistics, which I think a lot of like
Yeah.
people who aren't into sports just see it as that and don't try and
Yeah, you know,
comprehend it.
John.
Yeah.
I think John Boyce has said in interviews that he wrote this story for his readers to have a good time, and I think that's very much shows.
Yeah, he did a beautiful job with it. It's so much more than I think a lot of people were anticipating, and I think that's why it got a lot of love. You don't really expect to find beauty in SB sports.
Yeah, in SB Nation.
SB Nation, yeah. You can see my knowledge of this.
In being the distant future, like there is a bit of sort of social commentary inserted throughout. Like in particular, comes to mind is like towards the very end, it's revealed that global warming finally took its toll, and New York is like underwater now.
Yeah, they do say it a bunch through the comic too. Like they just point to the fact that Florida is just gone. Florida and New York are just straight up gone.
Underwater.
They do hint at it, yeah.
I think even B, Nebraska is underwater in the Google Earth footage because it's in the Mississippi floodplain.
Oh, that might be true.
Really? So wait, it's projected to be underwater in the future?
I mean, it depends on how high the water gets, but the whole Mississippi river floodplain, if you think about it in really broad terms, is a valley. So if the water rises enough, it's a really shallow valley, so if the water rises enough, there would be a lot of area on either side flooded. And that would yeah, I think he has a picture of, they have a picture of the continental United States in its entirety as an outline based on the water rising there.
Ah.
That's what they have on the cover of the 500 game Scout's Guide. So yeah, like Louisiana's destroyed, southern Texas is destroyed, Florida's gone, Maine is gone.
Delaware's gone.
Yeah, the Eastern Shore. Well, Delaware was a good first try for a state. They don't even have a major metropolitan area. But yeah, the Eastern Shore's gone.
You're killing
Manhattan's
me.
gone.
You're
I'm
killing
sorry,
me.
Izzy.
We do have moderately. We're close to a bunch of them, so we don't need our own.
That's fair as well. And I think Metropolis in...
Why does Rhode Island still get to be there? What the fuck?
Well, it's an
Rhode
island.
Island wins by doing nothing.
Rhode Island wins every stage, yeah.
That's
Is that Rhode Island? I think that might...
Is that
I think
Connecticut,
that might be
maybe?
Connecticut. I don't know.
Oops.
No, that little tiny dot underneath it might be Rhode Island.
Here, wait. I'm gonna pull up a regular U.S. map. I love our education
God.
system so much.
I love those videos where they get like 10 people into a room and in pairs they try to label a map of the U.S. and none of them are from the U.S.
I think it might be Massachusetts, actually. Yeah, I'm sorry.
The top, that Peter, in that picture you sent, the top, I should say the northeast portion of the U.S. down to New York kind of looks like a vulture.
I kind of see that. Yeah, Maine is like the beak.
Yeah.
Okay, no, it definitely is Massachusetts, and Rhode Island is definitely gone. So,
Okay.
got that
good.
wrong.
Good riddance to Rhode Island.
Oh man, this is like the time I played Waterworld. Oh jeez, Lois. This is worse than the time I tried out for Kevin Costner's new movie.
Oh, holy crap! The drunken clam just became the sunken clam.
I don't have anything for you. I don't have a reference.
This is worse than the time I met Jacques Cousteau at a dive bar.
Today we are observing the Family Guy cutaway.
You do that so well. That's one of your best impressions, dude.
Very true. Very, very true.
I'd like to think that's what Juice probably sounds like.
A little
The
higher
impossible.
pitched.
Yeah.
A little
Like,
higher
just-
pitched because he's a zoomer, but yeah.
But like,
Yeah.
wait, is it a French satellite or is it an
Yes.
American satellite?
Yeah, he's
Oh, he is
French, yeah.
French. I forgot about that.
He was
Yeah,
built by
his
the
one like
ESA.
character flaw.
Yeah, his one character.
Yeah, his one character flaw. Yeah, disgusting. Scary fact: there is a France.
There is a France.
Did I
Izzy,
show you that
loved
meme,
you when I
Izzy?
showed you the I loved when I showed you the closed eye hallucination Wikipedia page because it has the image of the Eiffel Tower appearing and then disappearing, and you were like, "Goodbye,
yeah.
France is gone."
Goodbye. Yeah. Bye. We're alienating all of our French viewers. I'm
I found
sorry.
it. Found it.
Yeah, you found it. There is a France. Yeah, so the way the story ends is kind of interesting because like it opens very abruptly and with this kind of sense of urgency, but it closes in this very sort of casual way of Nine basically being like, oh, I need to recharge for a while apparently, and so he like shuts down for like I think 3 months or something, and they all say goodnight to each other, and it's just this very sort of serves as such a stark contrast to the beginning of the story. And
Yeah.
I really like, before we see the final video, I really like the quote that it ends on. You know, they all say like, I love you guys, love you too, love y'all too. And then Nine's like, I need to make a partition in my data storage. This is the end, right? This is the end of the story. And 10 says, we were always at the end. It's a free play, buddy. Clock's all zeros. It's after the end of the world.
Yeah. And I like after
Very-
the end stories where there just isn't any tension left, where it's like you can have a sort of relaxing feeling. There's an anime genre called Iyashikei, which means healing or soothing, I think. But a lot of them, for some reason, are post-apocalyptic. But you'll have basically a very charming, relaxing story tone in an impossibly bleak setting.
I guess it's because you need to have something to heal from.
Well,
That's
I
probably why.
suppose so. You get a lot of like really cozy stories in totally destroyed settings, like Girl's Last Tour.
You like anime?
It's two girls talking philosophy and, like the daily ins and outs of life. And they're traveling around in a battle tank through a destroyed megacity, and no one is left but them. And it's like always snowing. And Yokohama shopping log, something has happened, we don't know what, but the only main characters are androids, and they're the only ones left, and they run a coffee shop. And it's just
in a way
it's cute, but there's also like this like hidden dread in the background of a type similar to that in 1770-76, where
and I guess
the
it's sort of like a strange. It's like an inverse almost. It's like, because definitely I think it's like the world has sort of been destroyed in the opposite extreme way.
Yeah.
It's like it doesn't resemble what it used to be, but in like a completely opposite way.
Yeah, here it's very much a spiritual rather than a material destruction, and so people have to build spirit where they can find it.
Right.
And in most of those other examples I listed, you get more of a sense that the destruction is total, but the human spirit lives on. But I guess I would still classify 1770-76 in a very obtuse way. I would classify it as an Iyashike. It's Iyashike adjacent.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
And I think, it's like when talking about like what genre this is, I think it's definitely like, I think it's definitely kind of an open-ended interpretation kind of genre. I'm inclined to say that like I can go both ways with like the argument of whether or not it is sci-fi. I think it really depends on, because sci-fi is kind of a broad, ill-defined term anyway, and it can mean a lot of different things. But I'm inclined, I almost feel like it's sort of a subversion of science fiction in that a lot of science fiction is sort of, primarily about the setting, and like it uses the characters and story as a backdrop to show off this strange setting in which specific things are possible that are not possible in the real world.
Yeah, a milieu story.
Whereas this is more like the inverse of, it's using the setting as a way to highlight these different characters and scenarios.
Absolutely.
And like push them to their absolute extreme.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And I like all the like sort of archival images in the story. Like there's a lot of like newspaper clippings and old advertisements
showing
and stuff
continuity
like
over time, like they do with the Plymouth Voyager, and how it went from a gigantic like 24-seater van to like a soccer mom minivan.
Yeah.
Eventually got discontinued.
Even just giving us information. Like they have like newspapers giving us information about like the satellites themselves that were launched.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting way of conveying information. It's very Sisyphusian, the setting. It very much reminds me of the story of Sisyphus.
Sisyphean?
Sisyphean, yeah.
Yeah, it's a very Sisyphean story. Well, no, I don't know. I mean, all you'd have to do to make Sisyphus happy, and one must imagine Sisyphus happy, is that a little pointy number goes up, da-ding, every time he rolls the rock up. And then it's just a mobile game.
Okay.
I don't know.
I don't imagine Sisyphus happy. That's just me, though.
Well, how would you like to live in this setting, Bela?
See, that's one thing I wanted to talk about. I was going to ask you guys, what is the first thing you guys would do if you found yourselves in this world?
Like, having lived through the entirety of it, or arriving in its present?
If we find out we can't die?
Okay, well, let's say we live through its entirety. Like, once things sort of settle down and we are all over the shock of just that had happened, and things start to settle down, what's the first thing you guys would do? Because I know what I would do first.
Like, with nothing but time on my hands, and after the shock, and,
I would sleep. I would just sleep. I'm not kidding. I would sleep. I don't know if I would sleep for like
hibernation
days,
for
weeks.
30 years.
Like, days, weeks, months, years. Yeah. I don't know. I think I would just sleep for a long ass time though.
Hell yeah.
Until I didn't feel like sleeping, because it's like that's the one thing I feel like I never have enough time for, and that's generally like sort of what I sacrifice more than anything. I can't sacrifice work, don't want to sacrifice free time, so I sacrifice sleep.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that's like what a lot of us do too. I think a lot of people would probably have like very similar answers.
Pioneer 10, she describes it as, the state, they're in a perpetual state of rest. So I think definitely it speaks to that.
They can survive flying up through a tornado, so I don't think like the mundane elements are much of a trouble either. I mean, there's still things that are annoying, of course.
Yeah. It's
But
like a
if-
surprisingly mundane, like, utopian story, isn't
Yeah.
it?
I don't know if I'd even
I
call
don't-
it utopia.
I'm not inclined
no.
to call it a utopia.
I tend to
yeah.
think utopia and dystopia is kind of a horseshoe. And it's like you try to get towards utopia, you end up making something that's someone else's dystopia.
Well, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wouldn't call this utopian or dystopian. It is post-apocalyptic, but it's a very mellow one.
See, this is the thing, is like, I would not want to live forever. I just would not want that. That sounds horrifying to me. And, you know, they touch on that a bit in the story. Yeah.
You know that guy Xiao Ma on YouTube who goes around the world learning
Xiao Ma.
languages? Xiao Ma, yeah. I would try to do something like that. I think my first effort would be to learn every language on the planet.
I think that's pretty good.
I think that would take up a lot of time, but I think I would.
For
I,
sure.
think I mean, you have the time, you have the brain space, and you have the ability to travel. Why not?
I'm so
yeah,
bad
well,
at
see,
learning
that's the thing
languages.
is that, like, that's the thing is that it's like, it almost becomes sort of irrelevant, like what thing you would do down the line, because it's like you're probably going to do it all anyway, you know?
Maybe.
Yeah, what
No,
would you-
but except that some of these characters just live in their hometowns for 15,000 years.
I don't. But see, if we're looking at it on the scale of like literal eternity, here,
Yeah,
I think
and
in
8
like
billion
a
moving
billion
pieces.
years they probably would have done everything.
Some people just fall into a steady stasis. I think that just because something is probabilistically inevitable doesn't mean it happens to everyone.
I'm not convinced though that like not one person would do more after that much time.
Yeah, well,
Like after a certain amount of time.
well, that's
It
the
might- I'm
premise
not
of
saying
the
it wouldn't
story
take
is
a
that
lot
they
longer.
don't. I agree with you realistically, but the premise of the story is that they don't.
Well, it's what we're seeing,
Yes.
like 10,000 years or so after.
I can tell you that
It's sort of like we're sort of getting into fan theories here
Yeah.
now, with like thinking of what would the distant, even further distant future be like.
yeah. What would fantasy football be like in the future?
And John Boyce has actually released like a 2-part sequel story, 20020 and 20021, that I don't believe is finished yet, but it is a 111 team game orchestrated by Juice himself. That's what it's about. I haven't read it myself, but I'm very interested
funny.
to.
Well, I think I was just gonna say that I think I'd enjoy living there.
Yeah.
I think I'd be fine with it.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind it too bad. The way I look at things is that you only get so many sunny days in your life. So if I could live forever, I'd have as many sunny days as I want, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And I love being a bloke who does absolutely nothing. I love it. And the freedom to like do it and not have to worry about time seems great. And
Yeah.
it is one of these like apocalypse stories, which does still feel like it has a sense of joy and a sense of like we will still live on,
Yes.
just regardless of like all the ice caps melting.
Yeah. I think there would be
and-
a lot more creatives, honestly. Like,
Yeah,
there's play,
absolutely.
so where are, like, the people making music for their eternity?
It's true, yeah. There's definitely like there's a whole ass world here that John Boyce has envisioned, but he really has only chosen to focus on the football element, which is, sometimes that's in the story's favor, but sometimes it's definitely like, well, this could be a lot more than he's made.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it
Where are they getting
is
the meat
really-
for the burgers in the Burger King?
Exactly, that's true. Are the animals impacted? I think it also kind of highlights the end of the story as being slightly rushed in that aspect, where you have a lot of questions and Juice does
Yeah.
answer them, but they're in a very direct, he's telling you this way, because he's
Yeah.
telling Nine
Yeah.
all of these like sort of updated histories of the world, and he has like literally a 1-minute like countdown that he can get through before Nine goes back to sleep.
A lot of that could have been pushed off to a sequel.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of it.
Yeah.
It also kind of feels very interesting compared with the start that was very spaced out and very impactful versus like something that feels slightly rushed and you kind of miss it if you don't get there.
Yeah.
But I think it's fascinating, and I think that John Boyce did a wonderful job creating this world that you never stop having questions for.
Yeah.
You can think
Yeah,
about
no,
it
I
for
know.
ages.
I definitely think this world would screw me. I think I would eventually get sick of it and not like being in it anymore.
That's completely fair. There has to be an Ed.
Oh yeah, but the way they talk about it in the story though is like they talk about how like the heat death of the universe is like turned out to be total BS, and now it's actually going to exist forever, and literally it won't end.
Right.
Like horrifying.
Yeah. There is, yeah, what do you do when you're immortal on a geological timescale? That's crazy.
Well, yeah, no, exactly. That's the thing. Like, that's what I think about when people think about immortality, they never think about, like, it on, like, a geological universal scale, you know?
Yeah.
I do, and then I get scared, and then I start thinking about it.
Did I send you that? Hold on, I got a meme for this. I got the perfect meme for this.
Oh, I've seen this too.
It's such a good meme.
What is this?
Literally.
God damn it. Okay, cool. So I think
Yep.
I'm gonna outro then.
All right.
Cool. All good.
Thank you so much for listening to this Fictron bonus commentary. Be sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.